So we're going to look at mosaic compositions with nature as the center tonight. A mosaic is really the idea of filling your space edge to edge, top to bottom, kind of crowded with very little interest in creating a sense of depth. This a lot of textile work and mosaic work is inspired by this. I thought of this when I saw these Lee Angua paintings, made me think of it. So I want to look at the work of Baya Mahieddine. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing these right. A self-taught Algerian artist who became really influential, and if you can not, this will not surprise you. I think these amazing works influenced Picasso, and she just fills every inch of this space. And at the end of the video, we'll talk a little bit of what you want to think of to make sure it doesn't get too crowded. But notice there's a condensed palette. It's not like she's using a million different colors. We're also going to look at this is Gladys Mgudlandlu, who was a South African painter. I love her work so much. Look at how extremely in the foreground this work is, and how flattened space is. And often she actually does this like from almost an aerial bird's eye view, because there's a quote, I wish I would have written it down, about how she feels like she's a bird flying over the world. But really, she just kind of flattens a space, fills the canvas edge to edge, top to bottom. There's a lot of off-canvas, movement. Parts of the nature in her piece is kind of headed off the page. So that's kind of how you can make a mosaic interesting too. Like, these birds are very directional. So even though there's not a specific, sometimes not a specific focus point, she can really direct our eyes. And there's, like, in this overlap of these animals, there's sometimes a sense of space, but not a lot. This is Inji Efflatoun, amazing painter from Egypt. She owned a textile, and you can see this. She was a textile artist and fashion person before, and very, very outspoken and imprisoned for her views. Really interesting. And one of my favorite flower painters is Bibi Zogbe, a Lebanese painter, and she was very interested in kind of this maximalist painting, this really filling the edge with a lot of pattern, a lot of rhythm, a lot of color pattern. And I love her work. I think it's so interesting. You'll notice she has these kind of neutral backgrounds. So maybe if you want to do flowers, it's really great to play with a very desaturated background, a lot of desaturated greenery, and then the flowers really pop. Because if you think about the real world, there is not a lot of completely brilliant colors, like saturated colors. It's a lot of dull colors. Also, I think about what's symbolic to you. She painted, she was homesick and painted the thistles. This is the thistles of Lebanon, and then this is her painting of it. So, maybe if there's a place you miss or a place you love, you can think about the vegetation and the plant life there. Or maybe this is a thistle. I'm sorry. She painted. I'm not a botanist. And Florine Stettheimer did this kind of, I wanted to show another, if you're not in the mood to do nature, she did maximalism mosaic, often kind of filling the page top to bottom, flattened out space a lot. And what happens is it often kind of starts feeling a little surrealist, like hers is. So that's another option. You could create a surrealist world. I just want you to give up what we normally do, which is try and create space. Instead, you're going to focus on filling the frame. Klimt did these amazing landscapes, which every inch is a pattern. The variation is in the value. Some bits of warm and all that cool. There's so much to play with here. It becomes almost a total abstraction at this point, doesn't it? These are some of my favorite. I'm not, to full disclosure, not a huge fan of The Kiss. I love his landscapes, though. Look at that. I mean, that does give you depth, because we see what happens in that last bit there, but really most of this feels like it's in the extreme foreground. But again, not in the mood to do nature, that's fine. Contemporary painter Catherine Bernhardt does mosaic paintings with awesome objects like Crocs and Sharpies and Doritos and stuff. So maybe you want to do a mosaic. I am going to bring in the olden days palettes tonight that I meant to bring in last week. And the colors, and we can have palettes if you want to do that. So can you imagine doing some of these modern objects with a Renaissance palette and a mosaic composition? I think that would be amazing. That's a good exercise for anyone watching this. It's not in class. Pull out a bunch of contemporary objects. Use old-fashioned colors like chromium oxide green and ultramarine, and paint them in a mosaic, and you'll have this crazy cool-looking thing. Okay, this is another contemporary painter, D. Nickerson. I chose her because she really fills her page, and so much of this animal behavior is in the foreground, and then the vegetation is in the background, which is kind of cool. You could insert a person in it. Just because it's a mosaic does not mean you can. A Miroco Machiko, I love, as you know, if you've taken class, I love her. She's a contemporary Japanese painter. A black background with saturated colors on top is cool. Yeah, color's going to be very important. And again, if you pick a restricted palette, your life will be so much easier. So, and black and white would be cool. So what we're going to think about when doing a mosaic is depth and space. So, as we said, normally we're trying to do like what this grant would. We try and get established foreground, middle ground, background, like we do have in these Grant Wood. He's very famous for extreme foreground, very defined foreground, middle ground, background. But when you look at the work of people like Mgudlandlu, you don't have that, or Nickerson. That's gone. Rhythm and pattern is another thing we're going to talk about and focus on. Baya has this amazing purples that are kind of defining it. Bibi Zogbe has these pops of warm in the sea of green. So pattern becomes very important. Background becomes very important. So color becomes very important. And again, a restricted palette might help with that. Okay, see you tonight. Bye.